Hello and welcome to DevOps Culture and Practice. Over this course, we're going to have a look at several different topics. We're going to start with some of the cultural side of what is DevOps. So we're going to start with Introduction to DevOps and having a look at the type of pipeline that we're going to be developing over the course. We're then going to move on to some of the different technologies we'll be using. So we're going to start with having a look at cloud computing with Amazon Web Services. And in that, we will have a look at how you can create machines in the cloud, how you can connect to them, and we'll use that as the basis for a lot of the other modules we're going to do. After that point, we're going to have a look at source control, looking specifically at Git and a server called GitLab. Then we'll look on to building our software, so how we do that with something called Maven, some continuous integration and continuous delivery with Jenkins. Following that, we'll look at containerization with Docker, and how we can get that to build containers around our software so that we've got a one-step deploy with everything. Our next topic is having a look at config management with Puppet, and then monitoring, as monitoring what we're doing is the only way to be sure as to whether or not we're doing it correctly. So we'll have a nice summary at the end of this, having a look at the full pipeline end-to-end and what we've built. So some of our course prerequisites for before we start on this. The idea is you will have had some experience either developing software before or in operations or perhaps in DevOps. This doesn't mean you have to be an expert. It just means you've got some idea of either one side or the other side of the entire process. You should be comfortable with basic terminal commands in Unix or Linux. So things like changing directories, being able to install packages, pick your favorite text editor. It doesn't matter which one you've got as long as you're using it on the command line. And it's good if you understand the concepts of source control, so the reasons why we're bothering to use it, as it will become key across all the different technologies we use. It's particularly useful if you've got experience using Git rather than, say, Subversion or Team Foundation version control, as that is the current standard for source control that we will be using. And it can be useful to have experience using the Windows command line as well as the Linux one. And it's always nice to have a bit of programming experience, but for those of you coming in from operations, you may not have done before. But over the course, we will be looking at how to create a new project, how to build it, and how to then deploy it. So by the end of this, everyone will have done a bit of programming. Our course objectives across this are numerous because we've got a lot of different topics to cover. So we'll be starting with having a look at the DevOps culture. So the idea of this is you'll be able to describe what DevOps is by the end of it, be able to say what the point of it is, why we're even bothering with any of this. And importantly, we'll understand that it's not about the tools. Despite the fact this course is mostly around the different tools we're going to use, it's not actually as important as getting some of your cultural stuff on your company working in the first place. And you should be able to list the various different important parts in DevOps. So what the pillars of the DevOps and tooling movements are. So the next topic we'll have a look at is understanding what cloud is and having an idea of what on earth this buzzword means. We'll be using Amazon Web Services over the course of this. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is how we create instances using EC2, that is Elastic Cloud Compute. And then how you connect to them, whether or not it's Linux or a Windows machine, how you can actually access it, and understanding how to generate key pairs in order to do so. After this point, we'll have a look at source control. So we'll have a look at using Git, both locally on your own machine, and also how to install your very own GitLab server so that you can push your stuff into the cloud and keep it secure elsewhere. We'll have a look at how you back up some of GitLab as well. So it's not just about the use, it's also about the administration. The next topic we'll have a look at are build tools. We'll have a look at Maven specifically, which is often used as a Java build tool, but it can be used for many different languages. And we'll get our projects building locally first before we look at a system called Jenkins. And for this, we're going to look at installing it, again, into our cloud systems, and look at how we can link Jenkins and GitLab together. So when you push your code to a GitLab server, it will automatically be picked up by Jenkins and continue to build. After this, we have a look at containerization. And for this, we're having a look at the Docker engine, a very popular solution for containerization problems. And we will have a look at how you can create your very own containers, how you write these Docker files, how you build them, how you can automate setting off that process from Jenkins itself. So now the programmer just has to submit some source code, and from that point, the toolchain picks up and goes off to build it with Jenkins and builds a container around it with Docker. If you don't want to use containerization, then there's often people who want to look down the config management route. These can be used together or separately, but we're going to have a look at a specific config management tool called Puppet, and we're going to look at how we install it, how we configure the agents to talk to the master, how we can write manifests and classes and modules so that we can specify what should be installed on the machine, and how we then assign that to the various different nodes. And to summarize all of this, we're going to have a look at the monitoring side. Monitoring is one of the key concepts in DevOps and, in fact, in operations itself, because you need to know what's going on in your machines. So we're going to have a look at Nagios for this, which is a very popular solution. We're going to have a look at how you can monitor both Windows and Linux machines, and we're going to have a go at installing all of the services. So that brings us to the end of the introduction. I hope you enjoy the course.